All right, let's try to bring everybody on. I think we got everybody here. Lost TNT. No, no. Yeah, everybody's back. Yeah, everyone's here. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. You know how this stuff is. It's far from a perfect science, and just had some little snafus as we were coming back in. I see that Phil just jumped in. TNT is jumping in and out. But let me introduce. Let me introduce who is going to be. I think it's on my end, Phil. Just asked if it was on his end or my end. Not really sure, quite honestly. But Nathan Ivey with you, your humble host and moderator. Welcome back to the Hot Mic Cincy podcast. We've got Kevin Aldridge with us, a.k.a. the voice of reason. Here is Phil Heimlich. There he is. What's up, Phil? And he just left again. There it is. Hey, Phil. Can you hear me? He's back. We got Jack Grenier. Is it Grenier? Am I saying that correctly, Jack?
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for your time this afternoon. We can hear you. Yes, I can hear you anyway. Yes. Yes, we can hear you, Phil. We just lost TNT, but hopefully she'll jump back in. You know how this stuff is, folks. Far from perfect science. And I won't ascribe or assign any conspiracy theories to it. It's snowing outside. It could be that interfering with the connection. Not really sure. But also, let me bring the chat in. We got a lot of folks who are lining up. We really appreciate you. Jerome was first in the chat. Good to see you, Jerome. Followed by Pamela and crew member Terrace. Good to see you, Terrace. Oh man, Terrace, boy, listen, he made his own video. Did you guys see that? He sent it to me. Apparently, he was right about something or had some point to make about the last show. I'll make it a chance to share it, or we may wait until Tuesday next week when we're back on again with Terrace. Good to see you, Terrace. Regina writes, good afternoon. Dina writes, good afternoon. Marquetta's in the house. Good to see you. Very familiar face there. Nat writes, good afternoon. Hey, how are you doing? Hey, Vanita, good to see you. Shahira, good to see you. Thank you so much. And you guys know how this works. Please, hey, what's up, Tony? You joined us one day. Got to get you on again, bro. Good to see you. I will be posting on YouTube and on Facebook in the chat a link so you can join the show.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Can you text him, Kevin, just to let him know that we can actually hear him?
Yeah.
Dina writes, I saw it.
I don't know if he can hear us. That might be the problem.
Right. Yeah. At least he thinks he proved his point. We'll put it that way. He thinks he proved his point. But again, I will be posting on Facebook and YouTube at the beginning of the show, once the conversation gets started, a link so you can join the show via your phone, or maybe you're on your laptop or whatever device. You can join with the video and audio, or just the audio, but it'll be pinned to the top of the comment section, again, on Facebook and on YouTube. And still waiting for TNT to get back into the show, but as they say, the show goes on, so I'm going to jump straight into it. Thank you so much for being here. And let's just jump into our first topic. And we are in Black History Month. And there's a lot of memes that are being shared across various social media platforms. A lot of them, there she is, a lot of them have a tone of TNT, she's back. A lot of them about to get straight into the first topic and talk about Trump and the meme that he posted about the Obamas. But a lot of the memes have been sort of like little known Black history facts. You see a lot of that during Black History Month. And a lot of it is sort of like encouraging. You might even see some stuff about so-called foundational Black Americans and things like that. But within the last 48 hours, the President of the United States has been, he's really stirred something up with this. He posted a link to a video on his Truth Social that also included this image right here of the former First Family, former President and First Lady Barack and Michelle Obama, that depicts them as apes. Now, the White House actually put out a statement, and they said, hey, nothing to see here. This was a part of a larger video that really had a Lion King type of feel to it and vibe, where the president was the Lion King, and then various Democrats, including Obama's, were depicted as animals from the Lion King, cartoon, animated movie and series. But other people are saying, nah, this is just going too far. I want to get your thoughts about this. And here's the first question. Should intent matter more than impact in cases like this? Like if the White House is saying, "Hey, listen, we didn't mean to be racist. We didn't mean to be that. I mean, we thought we were being, congratulatory to Trump and maybe having some fun with it, but not to be racist." Does that matter, or does the impact matter, in your opinion?
Well, first of all, Nathan, you would have to be basically the dumbest person on the face of the earth to not recognize or know what the implications would be of putting black faces on the body of monkeys. I don't care what the intent was. You're not going to have me believe that anybody with any modicum of intelligence, and remember, these are supposed to be the best of the best individuals that Trump has working in the White House, right? You got to be aware of and catch that kind of thing. And I don't care what your intent was. So the White House, their whole response to this, instead of apologizing, instead of saying, hey, no matter what our intent was, we recognize that this might have been insensitive, they're not offering any of that. And in fact, I think they even tried to blame it on like some kind of staff aide and say it wasn't even the president, and didn't say anything about, hey, this staff aide is going to be reprimanded, fired, suspended, nothing like that. So this just lets you know what a bad faith argument they're trying to put forward with this sort of thing. Look, this is the type of thing that Donald Trump has done from the beginning, whether it's saying good people on both sides in Charlottesville, playing fast and loose with the Proud Boys, stand up, stand down. Donald Trump, throughout his campaign, his 2 terms in the presidency and the campaigns that he's run, he has been, in some cases, overtly racist, and in other cases, subtly racist. And his supporters who refuse to call this out, Republicans in Congress, those who voted for him and who supported him, who want to act like they're not racist or they don't believe in racist things, then if you feel like that, then stand up and denounce this sort of stuff. Don't try to block for him. Don't try to apologize. You know as well as I do what this is. I don't care what kind of spin the White House is putting out on it. And the fact that, and I'm just going to say this, and then I'm going to let the rest of the panel go, because I know there are people who are probably chomping at the bit to get at this, and I'll get back in when I can. But I really feel not just the president's supporters need to stand up against this, but everybody needs to. Look, most people who share our skin color are appalled by this and are going to speak out against it and say things. But racism in this country is not a problem that black people have to solve. Racism in this country is a problem that white people have to solve. And until white people stand up and denounce this sort of thing unequivocally, saying it's not cool, it's not acceptable, you're going to continue to see this kind of white supremacist nonsense rear itself. And so if you are somebody who really says that you're colorblind and you're against race and all of this sort of stuff, then you need to stand up and denounce it. I don't care whether you're a supporter of the president or not.
Right. Well, first of all, I want to say happy Black History Month, and make sure everyone, you take the time to remember and honor the many trailblazers for freedom and equality. Never underestimate or undermine the courage and the sacrifice that many before us gave and to live the lives that we live today. It was Maya Angelou's who said, "We are the hope and the dreams of the slave," meaning for our ancestors, the life that we live today, they could only imagine in their dreams. They didn't know a life beyond slavery. They didn't know a life beyond Jim Crow segregation. And I am one who will never, ever take that for granted. We have to continue to fight for the past that they're trying to erase, as well as fight for our future. And so as far as Trump and his racist post, I mean, he never really disappoints or misses the opportunity to show how much of a low-class bottom feeder that he is. He's one of the most idiotic, incompetent, un-American presidents in this nation's history. And I can't include racist because we had a few presidents that were slave owners. So he doesn't exactly get that title. But when I woke up this morning, the first thing I saw was that image. And first, myself was like, is this even real? I didn't want to click on it. I didn't want to give it any life. But the more I scroll, Like every other post was this post, and it's sickening me. And then I was like, is this really coming from the White House? And then when I see the news and they're talking about it and everything else, I'm like, wow, absolutely wow. Like this is coming from the president of the United States. He is making such a mockery of this office, but he absolutely does not care who he offends. Like no matter what, you approve this post, you're defending this post, and then to even see Tim Scott, which is the only Republican African American in the Senate, for him, Mister, we loves you, to step out and have a post and say, uh, he hoped that this isn't real, but if it is, it's the most racist thing he. What did he say? It was the most racist thing he has ever seen out of the White House, and that they need to remove it. And shortly after this post, and I don't know if it was because of him or just multiple people calling the office about it, um, it has been removed. But there is no apology. That's the other thing. He's like unapologetic. And but again, we've seen this before. We've seen this with, you know, the Haitian people. They're eating the cats and dogs. We've seen this with the Somalian individuals and just all different races of color. And so it's not far fetched that, you know, his beliefs and what he is, as much as people want to underskirt it and make it like it's not a big deal and it's not the situation, he reveals very clearly that hate is real, and that when it reaches the highest office, when it's in the position of authority, that is really dangerous for people that look like me and people of color. And so that the whole narrative post Trump, where it was like we're in a post-racial society and there's no discrimination and dismantle DEI and there's no systemic racism. The only positive about this is that he's so blatant that it cannot be denied. It can't be denied. So I'll pass the mic to someone else, but I'm like most people, African American people of color, very offended.
Jack, Phil, what do you guys think? Is defending this as just a joke, minimizing racial history, or resisting political correctness?
I'll give Donald Trump some credit. This was no accident. This was no accident. This is just like when he had Nick Fuentes for dinner at Mar-a-Lago, who's the pro-Hitler Holocaust denier. He has dinner with this guy, and then he goes, "Oh, I didn't know who he was." That's pardon my language. That's bullshit. He knew exactly who he was. He did it to send out a dog whistle, okay, to the racists and the anti-Semites. That's the same thing here. He knew what he was doing. Okay, he may not be smart, but he's shrewd. And by then saying, "Oh, it was an accident," he's accomplished both things. He's covered himself with an explanation, but he's let the racists know, "Hey, I'm your guy." And the truth is, this is the first president, well, I guess in 100 years or many years, where it's very clear that the Holocaust deniers and the Klan people and the neo-Nazis, they're part of his coalition. That's why on January 6th, you had T-shirts that said Auschwitz this or Confederate flags. This is part of his coalition. And he's sending a message to them that, hey, guys, I got your back.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think that the other thing is we just shouldn't be surprised by his refusal to apologize, or it's just not going to happen. I mean, it's just he learned from Roy Cohn. You never apologize. You never back down. And, you just move forward and just don't acknowledge that the humanity in this, and that good people, all people really should be and ought to be offended by this. And there certainly should be apologies. There should have been apologies for dozens of things that have happened in this term and in his prior term. But let's not act surprised that it's not forthcoming. It's just not going to happen. And I also think that to answer the question, yeah, if you try to pass this off as just a joke, you are absolutely minimizing racial history. This is not political, it's not political correctness or wokeness to see the offensiveness of this post. It's just not. And it would be if somebody, if you did a post with him in blackface or somebody in blackface, and to act like that isn't a big deal. To do that, you have to ignore decades and centuries of racism that came before it. And no, this is not a question of political correctness.
Is there a long-term effect to this? Because a lot of people, I hear them saying like, well, Trump won't be in office much longer. We've got 3 more years. But does this type of stuff coming from the president have a long-term effect that will linger? Will there be a residue, in your opinion, long after he may leave the office?
So I think it's a mistake to, and here's what I think we do. I think we want to say that Trump is creating this atmosphere, when in the reality, this atmosphere created Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a creation of these sorts of attitudes manifest and given power in this country. Look, I think the fact that we're talking about this being Obama, I've said this many times, that Donald Trump is the white supremacist reaction to the first black president in the history of this country. And all MAGA is a conversion of the Tea Party, which we know all of the racist tropes and elements that party used under the guise of taxes and all of these other things. I mean, people, you can dress it up however you want. It's essentially the same group of individuals who were disgruntled about the first black president, and Donald Trump saw that. He seized on it as an opportunist that he is, even in the midst of his own bigotry, and he's carried it forward. What all Donald Trump has done is released and given license to these folks who used to be kept on the fringes. I mean, even if conservatives somewhat shared some ideals, they at least had the integrity in the past to disavow these types of guys and say, hey, we don't need your vote. We're not gonna stand up with a David Duke or any of these other crazies and give them any kind of legitimacy, right? Donald Trump said, to heck with that. I want your votes. And at the same time, I'm going to entertain this. So I think to put all of this on Trump and simply think getting Trump out of office is going to make this go away, it's not. It was here before Trump. He unleashed it and gave it permission and license to come forth even more in this age of social media and the internet. And yeah, it's here because it's always been here. It's been a fabric of this country, and it's what Donald Trump doesn't want us to talk about in history books and that sort of thing, because it's not going to make people feel good about America.
And let me say something about Tim Scott, if I could. He is a cowardly enabler. I mean, it's a little too late for him to speak up. I mean, there has been one atrocity after another, and he not only doesn't say anything, he just he basically sells his soul out to Trump. So yeah, I guess maybe out of embarrassment, he felt he had to say something here, but that guy deserves, with all due respect, no credit whatsoever.
Interesting.
No, yeah, I don't put Tim Scott in any different category than any black person who supported Donald Trump. We've said it myriad times. Look, this is not about conservative or fiscal policy or any of that. I've said this from the beginning about Donald Trump. Look, we can disagree about policy. We can disagree about what might be the best way to move the country forward economically or on immigration. But the one thing that was undeniable was how deplorable this guy was. And this is who you chose to give your vote to. Not any of the other standard bearers who ran in previous Republican primaries. You had a choice, and you propped this guy up over Marco Rubio, over any other Republican candidates that you could have put out there. You made this guy the standard bearer. So it wasn't just about policy. You could have got any number of Republican candidates who could have stood on the same principles of immigration and whatnot, and who didn't have nearly the character flaws or problems that this guy had. But this is the guy you chose.
Well, you chose not to. And I mean, Rob Portman and a half dozen other Republicans could have impeached him after the January 6th.
Or even the first impeachment, for that matter.
Even putting that aside. But I mean, he should have been impeached after January 6th. And, you'll hear these arguments. Portman will say, well, he was out of office. Like, there's precedent going back to Andrew Johnson, Secretary of Defense, who was impeached after he was removed from office. And they let it happen. And so, you talk about enablers. I think those folks have to be mentioned right up there.
You brought up the word impeach, so let me just stay there for a second. Then we'll move on.
I think he meant convicted, is what Jack meant.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
Thank you.
But you brought the word impeach. So a lot of people are saying, and even Trump has said, that if the Democrats get a majority in the House of Representatives, that they are going to impeach him. Give me your opinion about it to the crew. If the Democrats take the majority in the House of Representatives, with what you've seen and what you know, right? I know it's not everything, but just asking you personally, do you think the Democrats should try to impeach him?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm asking everybody. Just
well,
based upon what do you think?
I don't want our country to descend into a situation where, one side wins and just because they've got the ability or the votes to impeach a sitting president, that they do that. I think that it would have to be, but I think you've got some very viable arguments in favor of impeaching. I would say the war crimes that he committed with respect to bombing the fishing boats off of Venezuela, going back, killing survivors in violation of international law. I mean, I think that's just sort of the first thing that comes to mind. If he actually takes steps to unconstitutionally take over the voting in 15 states or whatever. I mean, I hope that if an impeachment comes, I hope it is on viable, solid grounds and not just because the party who takes control of the legislature has the votes to do it.
What do you guys think? Should the Democrats impeach if they get a majority, in your opinion, just based upon what you see and how you look at things?
I think they absolutely should impeach, but the impeachment should be happening now while, with Republicans. But they have capitulated in such a way that, you can't expect any accountability from them. And that's a shame because there's supposed to be a check and balance, separate forms of government, and that's not happening. And even whether who has the majority, he has clearly committed crimes. That whole White House is full of corruption. They're making money. His whole family is making money. And it's just like, if this was any other president, it would be over. He doesn't, of course, apologize for anything. So it isn't like he's going to have the fortitude to resign or step down like what we've seen in the past. So for us to continue to think that things need to be done in a traditional way or, this isn't the norm, like he is not the norm. And the mere fact that we're just scooting aside, all these criminal acts and just even his name in the Epstein files in that capacity, that would be enough to like end any politician's career. But no, not Trump. And the fact that, his party right now, all it takes is a few, but they are so in fear or just basically pledging allegiance to Trump and not the Constitution, not America. Their allegiance is to this one person. When they get out on press, when they speak to the public, it's like they're speaking to a party of one. They're not speaking to the people. They're not moving independently, and not just Trump need to be impeached, but Pam Bondi, because part of the reason why things are happening, why someone like Alex Pretty may never see justice, or Renee Nicole Good, is because we have a attorney general that won't do anything. You know what I'm saying? She's turning a blind eye to all these criminal acts, and not doing her job because she's serving Trump and not the country. And she took an oath to follow the Constitution. She took an oath, to an allegiance to this country, not the president. But they seem to have a different understanding of how this goes. And a lot of them, I believe, are so intertwined with corruption in themselves, how they might be playing against the markets, and just that when this is all said and done, so many people are going to go down. And it doesn't serve them to do the right thing right now because they're part of the corruption too in some form or fashion. And Judgment Day is going to happen. And it looks like it's going to take the people to make it happen.
Nathan, here's what I would say, and I'm going to answer this in two ways. Do I think Donald Trump deserves to be impeached? Absolutely. Do I think the Democrats should, if they take the House, should spend time trying to impeach him? Absolutely not. And here's why I say that. The Democrats, if they do get power, they need to be more focused in shutting down the things that Donald Trump is doing and moving forward rather than getting caught up in more political intrigue of impeachment. You've impeached the guy twice. He still wound up president. If the Democrats get in and they control both houses of Congress, you can make sure he's out of there and he can't do the things like election and interference and a bunch of other stuff where he tries to extend his presidency. It's enough for me to get this guy out of here in a couple years and neuter him and make the last couple of years of his presidency irrelevant as they tried to do to Barack Obama. That's what Democrats need to be concerned about instead of getting into this tit for tat war, endless congressional hearings on Donald Trump that are not going to end up in removing him from office. I'm just telling you that right now. This is the way that the politics is going to go. They, again, as I said, the man's been impeached twice. He's still the president. I understand the principle that TNT is talking about. But as Terrace has said many times on this program, and I agree with, the Democrats have got to start looking beyond Trump. First, you neuter him for these last couple of years. You get control. You start to get your agenda. You shut down and try to reverse some of the things that he's done. And you look forward to getting yourself together in 2028. Because all of the Republicans are going to do, if you take this impeachment, is to talk again about how the Democrats want to weaponize and politicize government to go after Trump and make it all about him. Be content with shutting him down, reversing what he's done, making sure he can't do any shenanigans to run for 2028, and keep your eye on that ball. I promise you, if the Democrats go down that lane with impeachment, it's just going to result in the same mess that we've seen for the last 10 years. And quite frankly, I think it's going to put their 2028. You're going to be playing right in the Republicans' hands for 2028. That's just my opinion.
TNT, something tells me that you have a different opinion.
Yeah, I mean, for one, I don't understand how just allowing him, someone that just appears like to be delusional, like he may be, mental stability really isn't there. I don't see how that is even safe for the country. Like, he has his hand on the button, and we're already talking about, possibly going into certain wars and leveraging things and purchasing. It's just like he's all over the place. And I think the American people are exhausted, and we need real leadership at this time. And even if that is JD Vance or whatever the situation is, he is unhinged, and we have to really take that in consideration. And on top of just
JD Vance is worse. That's worse. I'd rather leave, because at least Donald Trump is predictably crazy. JD Vance is 10 times worse because he's actually smarter than Trump. Maybe not as shrewd as Trump, but he's smarter than Trump. And he is sure somebody that I wouldn't want in power. I'd rather take my chances.
I don't want him either, but I think JD Vance could be neutered real quick. Like, the reality, what was allowed to be the norm with Trump has just taken over in a different kind of way, because power and corruption is just. But JD Vance is not a Donald Trump. He's just not. And so even if he attempt to pull some of these levers and stuff, he doesn't have the same pull and gravity of a Trump. And I don't know what it is about him that he has to do the things that he does. but JD Vance don't have that. And so, we're talking about the American people and what we need to like make sure, like right now they're saying that the dollar is weakened like by 10 cents, like with all his tariffs and everything else. And I'm not saying that is grounds for impeachment, but it's just like in so many different fashions, there's enough corruption there. Why would we just overlook the criminal activities? I agree with someone that said earlier he should have been impeached with the January 6th. That should have been done it right there. But just this 2.0 Trump that is just going about things like, I don't have to answer or account to any, I don't have to follow the Constitution. No. You know what I'm saying? People have been, I don't know, taken down for way less. He's done the most. And to sit up here and say the American people, let's endure this for 3 more years. No, we don't have to. That's why we have these levers in place.
TNT. That's where you're missing the point, TNT. The Democrats need to be focused. You can shut him down. Donald Trump is running roughshod over everything right now because you have a Congress that's not doing, a Republican-controlled Congress that's not challenging him in any way. If Democrats get in control of Congress, you can shut him down. But I'm telling you, part of the Trump allure is he sucks all of the oxygen out of the room every day because he controls the narrative. And impeachment is not going to change that. In fact, it's only going to make him more of a martyr. It's only going to create further divisions in this country, and it's not going to gain the Democrats anything. It's the same thing when they went after him. Hey, he's got to pay, and they're going to take him to court and do all of this stuff. They did that last time they got him out. And where is he at? Back in the White House. Sometimes
they passed the buck. Last time they
just got to cut the losses. Sometimes you just got to cut the losses and say, you know what? It's going to be enough for us to neuter this guy for 2 years and get him out and try to repair the country rather than continuing this fight that is only going to make, in my opinion, is only going to make him stronger and make him more of a martyr with 50% of the country.
And that's what people feel about Democrats. Somebody, in the post just said like what they ain't going to do. And that's the mindset. And I think not doing it is going to upset people more, because it's already this idea that when Democrats are in a position of power, they always the one that's just trying to, be well, of course, diplomatic, which they should be, but at the same time, they don't take the same effort in making change like Republicans do. Like they go all in, they unapologetic, and they don't, and they don't care how you feel about it in the long run. And some actions that are just clear, a violation of the Constitution and everything, and what they took an oath for. We have a right. What's the point of having the ability to impeach if we will never use it? Like, if this isn't the ground for, then what is?
You've impeached him twice, TNT. He's still there. So what did the last?
They passed the buck and thinking that the courts would handle it.
What did the last
two? We see that the courts was not going to handle it.
What did the last
that was
two?
a long delay. They didn't want to. They didn't want to be the ones to do it. The Republicans was weak on it because they wanted to just allow the courts to handle it. What happened? He ran the clock out on the courts, and if the courts was able to do it, they probably would have been able to get to him at time because they had enough evidence there to show, that he committed a lot of crimes in this past administration. But at the same, and everybody around him, a lot of people went to jail, many of them in his administration. And so he was just the last one, and he just made it back in. And I don't think most people would have believed with everything he had at his feet that he would be the president, but he is. And now that the Supreme Court kind of made it so anything he does, he's kind of exempt from it. He's just out of control. And so I don't think it's enough to just sit up there and have the majority in Congress and just try to stop him with laws, because all they are lawmakers. And if he don't follow the law, you know what I'm saying? And then the courts take too long to do anything. You have to remove him. You have to.
Phil, what do you think? I want to get your thoughts.
I don't care about impeachment. It doesn't mean anything. And to be, with all due respect, when I hear people say, "Oh, well, the Democrats just have to do this," or "they need a better candidate," I don't care about that. I really don't, because my feeling is if we have free and fair elections in 26 and 28, things will take care of themselves. I mean, if you go back to the end of the George W. Bush regime, and you remember, I mean, whether McCain had no chance because the economy was in such chaos, and things are devolving into chaos here, but do I have confidence that we're going to have a free election in 2020 and 26 and 28, maybe 26, 28? No, not a chance. This guy, this guy is not going to let that happen. I don't care what he has to do with the ICE troops in the streets, or he's not going to let it happen. Okay. And so the challenge isn't, I don't think, political strategy. The strategy is to do whatever possible to protect our elections.
All right. With that, let me move on. So this weekend, Super Bowl. I'm not sure what your picks are. A lot of people will be watching the game. A lot of betting will be happening. And there's been a lot of controversy about the Super Bowl halftime. Sorry about the fuzziness there, but it's a screen grab. So Bad Bunny, who is one of, if not the most popular artists in the world, is going to be performing for the NFL Super Bowl halftime show. A lot of folks, including our president, who we were just talking about, were upset at that choice. I'm not sure why. I believe he's an American citizen. And so the good folks over at Turning Point USA, that's Charlie Kirk's organization, they decided to create their own Super Bowl halftime entertainment. It's called the All American Halftime Show. They've got Kid Rock and a whole bunch of other folks whose names I just can't remember right now. And they're saying they're running it almost like a protest halftime show. And I want to get your thoughts about this. Like, one, real quickly, will you be tuning in? Are you a little bit curious? Will you be watching it? I'm hearing a lot of polarization. It's like yes or no either way. But I think a lot of folks they'll peak either way. You know, whether you're going to spend a lot of your time with the All-American show, you're going to check out Bad Bunny, if only just to criticize it. And I think vice versa. But also, is this good for the country? Is this where we are now? Is this more separation, more division, more us versus them? What is your take on this? Or does this not matter at all?
Well,
Phil, what you think?
Clearly it's more division. There's no question about that. But I think, look, the NFL and the Super Bowl is still the 800-pound gorilla. I think when it comes to ratings and who's going to watch more of what, I think it's not going to even be close. I mean, I think the Super Bowl halftime show is still going to be the thing that everybody watches and what they're talking about on Monday. And the only place where people are going to be talking about this All-American halftime show is on Fox News. Look, when you talk about Bad Bunny, arguably one of the most popular artists, on the planet right now, compared to Kid Rock, some washed up, dude that most kids in this generation probably don't even have a clue of who it is. And this is who you're trying to cater to. Have at it. If that's your thing, I won't be watching it. To be honest with you, I'm not a Bad Bunny fan. It ain't like I'm gonna be necessarily glued in for the halftime show. I'll watch it because it is what it is. It's the Super Bowl halftime show, but I'm not watching it because it's necessarily somebody I want to see. But really, at the end of the day, it's much ado about nothing. I think this is just one more thing that folks who want to rail against wokeness or whatever else they want to call it will do. And if that makes them feel good, let them have it. I don't think it's going to make one bit of difference one way or the other.
I think it's just one more example of the hypocrisy of the Turning Point and MAGA crowd. They were bent out of shape over Bad Bunny being named. They didn't want to say it's because he's brown. So they said it's because of his sexually suggestive lyrics. And then Kid Rock, let me just read you Cool Daddy Cool, one of Kid Rock's most popular songs. Here's some lyrics. On my cell phone, I'm paid. G, can't call me, just page me. Young ladies, I like them underage. See, some say that's statutory, but I say it's mandatory. So that's Turning Point's headliner, folks. And Bad Bunny is a problem because of his lyrics. The people that didn't like Bad Bunny didn't like him because he's brown and he's Hispanic. And they've come out now and tried to come up with a pretext for it. And that pretext is pretty flimsy when you think about who's headlining the Turning Point show.
I have to say that someone just commented that he said I need to do more. Phil needs to do more commentating. I can see that brain percolating. I don't know if that's a compliment or not, but as far as this issue goes, my musical taste has been fully discussed on this show, and let's just say the reviews have not been good. Okay, so I don't think I'm in any position to be judging this, but I am going to put a plug in for something. Okay, the Super Bowl related. I don't know if you guys know this, but for 20 years, Crossroads Church has done their Super Bowl preaching service. Have any of you guys ever seen this?
I go
I'm just
every
telling
year.
you something. The interesting thing is the reason they started about 20 years ago is because the lowest attendance of any Sunday was always on Super Bowl because people were home getting ready for Super Bowl. So they started this thing they call the Super Bowl preaching. Okay, and it is very funny. It is very entertaining, whether you see it online or in person. They have a lot of extra services. They have about 5 locations around here, but they have kind of mock Super Bowl commercials that are very funny. They have a lot of gimmicks and yet a lot of a good message. So I just want to throw out a plug. If you have never seen the Crossroads Super Bowl preaching service, I encourage you to go.
I approve that message. And Phil, I don't know if the brain percolating comment was a shot at your bald head. In other words, like they can literally see your brain moving while on screen. I don't know. Maybe they'll clarify that in the comments.
Oh my God. Kevin, I was actually about to give you a compliment, as difficult as it is. Okay. I was going to say, if you haven't read it, that I hate to admit this, but Kevin's column on the whole Don Lemon situation I thought was very insightful. Okay. And here I'm saying this to you, and you make that kind of comment to me. I mean, I have a very fragile ego, right? You know that, right?
I do, Phil. My apologies.
All right.
That was out of
line. I'll let it slide. It's okay.
Cincy, what do you think?
Yeah, I really don't care what they do. I plan on watching the halftime show. Very excited to see Bad Bunny, and if they want to have Kid Rock or whoever, great for them. Like they're competing against the NFL, and that's like worldwide. And at the end of the day, it's just people just trying to have a good time. And I've heard a lot from Bad Bunny, basically just, all he don't even really want to get too heavy into politics. He just want people to have a good time and dance and feel good. And so, at one point of just like, can we just like not have politics and just enjoy the show and the entertainment? They always want to make an opportunity to divide the country. And I'm just over it. I really don't care. I might just be going to get some pizza at that time. I don't know. But I don't think it's that serious or relevant.
Really? For me, just my personal opinion, the Super Bowl is one of those few live venues that are multi-generational. You got millions and millions of people from across the world who are all watching the same thing. And the halftime show, man, I don't remember the numbers from when Kendrick Lamar was there, but specifically, but they were huge. I mean, just as many people watched that as the game. So this is a huge platform. So it's a huge platform for, cultural messaging. And I think, culture makes people feel things. It's an emotional baseline. Culture can connect with people faster, and music can connect with people faster than politics. I think it's very important. The emotional baseline that it sets, because it could be negative. But what we've seen the NFL try to do is try to bring people together, try to uplift people, try to be emotional, try to challenge people like they did with Kendrick Lamar. And what people do with that emotion, that's up to them. So I think it does matter. I think that this is yet another example of what is called the culture wars. It's now come to the NFL, and I don't think it's going anywhere. I mean, there is a war for the culture of America and what that emotional baseline is going to be. And we're going to see that played out on separate live venues in just a couple days. I think it's hugely important, potentially. in terms of what that means in terms of the future of the country. This NFL thing, Super Bowl, has always been huge in terms of catching eyeballs. And the feelings that people get, I think it matters.
Yeah.
I think it matters hugely.
America is a melting pot. And I really don't understand like this fight of like what America is. Is it country? Is it pop? Is it, why is it not Bad Bunny? For one, it's Puerto Rico, so it is a part of the U.S. Territories or whatnot. So I mean, a lot of people need to get more educated. But even at that, we are a melting pot of all different races and diversities, and so in our entertainment expands the gambit. And so when people start, defining genres like this is American music, and that's what only supposed to be played at certain sports shows or concerts or whatnot. What are we even talking about? Like, why does that have to be like?
But that's a product of the times, TNT, because that hasn't been traditionally the way that it is. All types of music have been embraced, whether it's at the Super Bowl or in general. I can't tell you the number of songs that are popular that not only include Spanish language, but other languages in it, whether you're talking about Italian or Irish or German or whatever. I mean, hell, we're in Cincinnati where every year where we do Oktoberfest, I'm sure that there are plenty of songs that are sung that have German lyrics and different things of that nature that are tied to it. So it's not about that. This is a part of that this political, anti-woke, ICE, immigration, political conversation. It's not about the music. Bad Bunny just represents this larger political backlash that we're seeing across the country, a lot of which we've talked about earlier is fueled by racism, xenophobia, and a whole bunch of other things that are a product of the day. So it's not just about the music, because if people are honest, there are a whole lot of people on the right who sing a lot of songs that have lyrics that come from people of different races and different nationalities that they love. So it's not about that. It's about this political stance that they're trying to take to use to divide us. And I don't think it's going to work, because I think, as Nathan said, I think the Super Bowl is the one thing. And there's an op-ed that a gentleman by the name of Dennis Doyle wrote today that I think is very good. You ought to go check it out. And he talks about how the Super Bowl is probably the last American ritual that we kind of all do together. That like 130 million people decide that they're going to tune in on Sunday to watch the Super Bowl, whether that's for the games, the ads, or the halftime show. It's like we're all there, and it's all something we're going to be talking about on Monday. And I don't think that as much as the politics will try to do it in this case, you may get people to turn away for the halftime show, but there's still a certain group. But the vast majority of Americans are still going to be tuned into this. They're still going to be watching. And I think this is the one thing that politics, try as it might, is not going to be able to ruin.
Also read that they're going to have, like on either ends in the end zones, they're going to have these Martin Luther King sort of quotes. One is going to be choose love, not hate. And I can't remember what the other is going to be. And I know we had talked about these end zone sort of messaging before. And I'm just wondering, is that still appropriate in today's times that we live in? Or should the end zone statements, phrases, should they be updated to match, the reality of what we're dealing with now? And if so, what would that be?
I'm very surprised if they are doing that, and that the NFL is speaking up. I mean, they are their own franchise, so that's what they want to do.
I'm sorry, it's end racism on one, and the other is choose love, not hate, I believe.
And I think
I'm sorry. It takes all of us. I'm sorry. It takes all of us, and then choose love on the other side.
I'm not opposed to it. I'm not offended by it. Certainly not in the same level as the Barack Obama and Michelle Obama meme or whatnot. If there's people offended by it, it speaks more about them, and it's really their problem. But I don't see why they have to step away from it when there's so many forces out here that's trying to divide us, and when they're just trying to share a message of love and unity right now is what we need. And while you have the biggest audience and the biggest stage, I think that is a powerful message to send out. At least it's a positive one.
Okay. Let's move on. Hillary Clinton was, well, the Republicans who are controlling the House of Representatives have been trying to get the Clintons to testify, and then they didn't want them to testify. And then Hillary Clinton called them out within the last, I'd say, 3 days and say, hey, listen, if we're going to talk about the Epstein files, you want to talk about our involvement, we shared information with you already. But if we want to continue to have a conversation about this, let's do it publicly. That was when we went to bed last night. Well, this morning I read that now it appears that House Republicans do not want the Clintons to testify on that publicly, so that may not be happening. But on the Epstein files in general, I don't know how much you got a chance to either maybe watch videos. I don't think most people are like going to the website and like doing deep dives on your own. I think most people are like, you're scrolling on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, and it comes up and you watch a video. And I've been seeing it just like that myself. But there's just a lot of really dark stuff in the Epstein files. They all haven't been released. But is this, now that at least 3 million files have been released, is this good energy for the country? I mean, people said they wanted this, right? You had Thomas Massey and other Democrats and a Democrat representative got together. Ro Khanna, they got together. They pushed this. It's out. Congress voted for this. But now that it's here, is this really what we wanted? I mean, what is your thoughts about what you know about what's in the Epstein files?
I haven't went through to the website to search anything myself.
You seen any videos or anything about it?
No, but I've listened to the survivors, on different platforms, and what's most concerning to me for them is that a lot of them feel like they are being exposed. That all this cautious that was supposed to be taken to keep their information private is being revealed, and they're still continuing to protect the predators. Like, it's complete opposite. They were supposed to have these documents out a long time ago, and their whole argument was like, we're making sure that we're redacting all the names of the victims and protecting them. But it's victims, their driver's license, their address, their full names mentioned multiple times throughout, and the only ones that are being protected are the people that are the possible predators in this whole thing. And so it's really revealing. Some of the people that claim like the Elon Musk, who's had the audacity to be like, oh, such and such name is in the Epstein files, and you are in there sending emails on Christmas Day like, what's when you gonna have one of them wild parties, or what's the wildest party I could get into real quick, like on Christmas Day, that you call it. But anyway, it's just it's amazing. Bill Gates, I saw an interview with his wife, his ex-wife, I should say, and she's just like, part of the reason why she's not messing with him anymore, but why they're divorced now is just like she don't know anything about that situation, but she's not with him anymore, and so it's guilt by association in some aspects. But I think about people across country whose names are in there, like Prince Andrew, and they're really, really, really holding him accountable. And I think he's being even asked to, come before Congress for hearings and whatnot. But
well, actually, he's being moved to a estate on the king's grounds that only has like 2 butlers. So there is some accountability for him, but not that much.
Only
but
2, huh?
His title stripped away and whatnot, and the shame that goes with it. And some of those images where he's like hovering over, it looks like a young girl or whatnot. I mean, it just leaves a whole lot to the imagination, and it's just like there's 3 million documents that they're not even planning to release, but they're supposed to release the full amount. And it's just like, you're stirring the pot, and for the people that really, really activated this, which was a lot of people within MAGA, this is kind of like a turning point of like, why are you still protecting these pedophiles? Why? And it's the one thing that really makes Trump upset. Like he really, really went in on the one CNN reporter. She had just posed the question. He called her
Collins. Yeah.
what's her name?
Her last name was Collins.
Can
Yeah.
I throw in a different?
But
Can
she
I
don't
request a
smile.
different subject, perhaps?
Uh-huh.
Well, let's get everybody's thoughts on this, but yeah, for sure.
All right, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I'm just my whole point is like with the Epstein files, I think it's imperative for the victims more than anything because they want their truth out there. For many, many years, it's been dismissed, put under the rug. And what it continues to show is that the rich and powerful still continues to get away with crimes. And even in this administration that's supposed to have been like a big advocate to get to the truth and to reveal, these perpetrators, they're like putting a full block on it, and it speaks volumes about them, and it speaks volumes to Trump, whose name is in there, I think like 37,000 or a lot. So I don't have the exact number, and that doesn't raise an eyebrow, like, and for him to get so upset when you even question about it, it just shows that there is something there. There is something there.
Yeah, I think, Nathan, to get at your question, like, is this good? Is the release or this information is coming out good for America? And I guess my answer to that would be yes, because I always say that, sunlight is the best disinfectant. I think a lot of us, kind of walk around every day. We're not exposed to this kind of dark underbelly of things that, are going on, and particularly when it comes to human trafficking. Like this is a salacious story because of Epstein and Trump and the high profile names of the individuals who are out there. So there's sort of that celebrity scandal, high powered people piece to it, and that's definitely part of the story. But I think this notion of human trafficking that happens around us all the time, and we are unaware of it, is something that our consciousness needs to be raised a little bit more to, whether it's around the NBA All-Star game, whether it's around the Super Bowl, whether it's around any of these high profile events where you have people who traffic in this type of human trafficking, whether it's with high profile individuals or the average Joe on the street. Like these are things that the public needs to be aware of and needs to be conscious of, so that we can do more to shut down and get rid of these networks. No, it's not great to hear. None of what most of us are horrified and sickened by the types of things that are contained in the Epstein files, but I think it benefits our society and country better as a whole if we're more aware of the fact that this type of stuff is happening around us, and maybe we have to be a little bit more diligent in trying to make sure that we get it taken care of.
All right. Jack, any thoughts?
I just think, yeah, I agree with Kevin. I think transparency is critical. I just think it's sort of ironic that I think some, thinking about Dan Bongino and Kash Patel, who were big advocates for releasing the Epstein files, and when they get into their positions, all of a sudden back off of that. And I think largely because of the involvement of Trump in the files. So I think a lot of the people that were pushing for the release were pushing for it not because they were concerned about sex trafficking or just exposing the depravity of the rich and famous, but they, I think, wanted to embarrass Clinton and other Democrats. And when they got a chance to look at them, they found that it was going to backfire on them. So. But yeah, I just think the whole circus is sort of blurring the underlying really tragedy here is that young women were being trafficked, and that's terrible. And but that seems to be sort of in the background, and that's unfortunate.
All right, let's move on. So Kevin wrote a very interesting piece.
You mind if could I just jump in real quick, please?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. First of all, just to reply to Taris, no Taris, I'm not planning on visiting the Prince, just to clarify that. But I do think that, I think that Jack, as you may know, Jack is one of the most prominent First Amendment attorneys in the country. And I think I would like to get his perspective on the threats to the First Amendment that we're seeing now by the Trump administration. In
That's where I was
particular,
headed.
oh, okay, okay. But
Yeah, that's right.
you were gonna talk about the Don Lemon, which is fun. But I just want to say that I'd like not only that, I'd like Jack's perspective on this effort through the FCC and other means to censor people who are critical of Donald Trump. The efforts where the head of the FCC is basically saying that we could do this the easy way or the hard way, meaning either get Kimmel off or we'll take away your license. These things that are happening where they want to do a merger, and in order to get that merger, they have to essentially pay off the president or kick somebody like Colbert off the air. I'm kind of just interested in Jack's response to these things.
I think you set that up really good. Let's go straight to it. Yeah, Jack, what do you think about that? Is the First Amendment under assault? And if so, how?
It's absolutely appalling. Going back to, and here's the thing that I think people get a little confused about. People sometimes use the term First Amendment or free speech a little loosely. Okay, so you had situations, recall when people were boycotting Rush Limbaugh's advertisers, and you heard, hey, what about the First Amendment? What about free speech? And the answer is that's got nothing to do with it, because the First Amendment only comes into play when the government steps in and threatens or takes action to gear toward the content of what somebody's talking about. If Brendan Carr, chairman of the FCC, wanted to say that he doesn't like Jimmy Kimmel or Stephen Colbert, doesn't find them funny, he's got every right. He can say that. He can certainly say that. It's when he starts talking about, we'll do it the easy way or the hard way, and starts talking about revoking broadcast licenses and that sort of thing. That is government action, and that is prohibited by the First Amendment. And, we have an administration that I think, unlike any other, Nixon certainly had his battles with the media and probably did some things that, were problematic. But I think since that time, I think for the most part, the administrations that have come after that have, if not respected, at least grudgingly respected what the press does. It's clear that Trump doesn't. It's not only through the official channels. So certainly having Brendan Carr essentially threaten broadcast licenses being pulled, having Pete Hegseth put in these ridiculous press restrictions at the Pentagon. And you ought to take a look at what he wanted the press to sign. It basically said that if they published confidential information, they were violating the Espionage Act, or that it was a national security breach. It's not. There's all levels of confidential information, and it is not necessarily a security breach to publish it. It's certainly not a violation of the Espionage Act, but he wanted the reporters to basically concede that point, which was preposterous. He, and took the position that if they ask questions of military officials that might lead to disclosure of confidential information, that they could be accomplices to those disclosures. So the press had to walk out of it. They had to not sign that. Now we've seen what happened. We've got people like Matt Gaetz, a journalist, sitting in the Pentagon press room. It's absurd.
And Jack, even Fox News and Newsmax refused to sign that thing, which tells you how extreme it was.
How egregious it was. I think what Kevin wrote about the Don Lemon situation in Georgia Ford, and so there are really two journalists. Lemon gets more of the attention, but Georgia Ford is also being charged under the FACE Act for doing their job. They were in a church, and I thought Kevin brought a really interesting perspective as a pastor and a journalist, but they were in a church, but they were reporting. We can separate discussion about whether the protesters have any exposure, but the idea that Don Lemon should be prosecuted. I mean, there's several problems with that. I mean, just certainly the First Amendment. Secondly, though, I wrote about it too, and I made the point that if it had been a Fox News reporter in the church documenting how appalling it was that these protesters were there, would that Fox reporter have been prosecuted? No. I mean, no, he wouldn't have. And that is so it's content based. It wasn't that Don Lemon was in the church. It was what Don Lemon was saying. And that is at the heart. The other thing is he's being prosecuted under this thing called the FACE Act, which prohibits the interference with religious worship. And I just think it's worth taking a quick look at the statute, because I think when you read it, it's pretty obvious that it doesn't apply to him. Let's see. Sorry.
Wasn't it meant to deal with anti-abortion protesters originally?
No, it was originally supposed to deal with giving some protection to abortion protesters. But then I suspect because of compromising and log rolling, it also includes interrupting worship service. But here's what the language says. It says, whoever by force, okay, so Don Lemon didn't use any force, or threat of force. Don Lemon didn't threaten force, or by physical obstruction. He didn't physically obstruct. I mean, he talked to people, he talked to the pastor, but he had no way physically obstructed that pastor. That pastor could have easily walked around him and declined to comment. So it's got to be by force. It wasn't. By threat of force. It wasn't. By physical obstruction. It wasn't. Intentionally injures, intimidates, or interferes with, or attempts to injure, intimidate, or interfere with any person lawfully exercising or seeking to exercise the First Amendment right of religious freedom at a place of religious worship. So again, maybe you could make an argument that the protesters, that this could apply to the protesters. I don't think it really does, because I don't think they were using force or a threat of force, or really, again, even physical obstruction. But certainly Don Lemon wasn't. And, there was an incident, it's interesting. There was an incident last year over on a Catholic parish on the west side of Cincinnati, Visitation, where their pastor had been removed or gotten into controversy, and there was some rumors about pornography and financial improprieties. And the archdiocese kind of tried initially to really sweep it under the rug. They read a letter at a mass at the church on a Saturday afternoon, and a parishioner, I won't mention his name, I do know him, but he stood up and just said, this is BS, this is a cover-up. So really, under the Justice Department's theory, he could be indicted under this federal law, which would be absurd. Would be absurd, but he could. I mean, you can't indict Don Lemon and claim that the FACE Act applies, and not indict the parishioner at Visitation Church. And JD Vance just made this comment the other day that they have a 100% rock solid case against Don Lemon. That's
crap.
That's preposterous. It's just preposterous. I think it's going to get thrown out quickly. But it just, again, though, it's not just what he does, what Trump does, and what this administration does. It's that it's somewhat of a cliche, but it is the chilling effect. So now, a journalist who might want to cover something is thinking twice if it's on a church, if it's in the steps of the church, and that's part of the goal. It is exactly that. It is to make the reporter think twice, and that is absolutely happening. He has no respect for the First Amendment. Trump is so transactional. If the First Amendment helps him, it's great. If the First Amendment doesn't help him, forget it. We're not going to pay attention to it. And even though his insults to reporters, which primarily are directed at Black and women, are not really don't rise to the level of First Amendment, but I think it's really telling. And I'll tell you what, I've got enough outrage that I can spread it around a little bit. I'm not really happy with other reporters. Why somebody in that room didn't stand up and defend Caitlin Collins is shameful. I think that when he moved on, and the very next reporter he went to should have said, I'm going to defer back to Caitlin and let her ask her question. And they don't do it. And it's cowardice. And it's just one more form of cowardice, and it's disappointing.
Or when he called that woman Piggy on the plane, just horrible stuff to say to people. It's horrible.
Yeah, Jack, and when I obviously I agree 100% with everything that Jack says, and he has a ton of experience in the legal area, although doing this for 25 years and dealing with Jack and having him probably save me and a whole bunch of us from legal peril in the jobs that we do. There are a lot of things that I think that, just to add on to what Jack said from the journalism standpoint, that I think people are missing, particularly when it comes to Don Lemon. You get a lot of people who are outraged because they don't like Don Lemon's style of reporting. That has nothing to do with his First Amendment right to be a journalist. Look, if there's one thing about TV personalities, whether it's Don Lemon, Rachel Maddow, Sean Hannity, whomever, Tucker Carlson, there's been this blurring of what we consider to be traditional reporters versus commentators, opinion givers, things of that nature. Anchors who headline these shows. The lines between opinion and just general news reporting, where it used to be clear when you opened your newspaper, there was the opinion section and then you had your news section. In digital spaces, and now particularly in television, those lines have been blurred. So Don Lemon is as much like what I do for the Inquirer as he is a general reporter, because he because he has his own platform now, has the ability to combine his reporting out in the field with his points of view on issues. And so when people say they heard Don Lemon expressing his opinion, well, you're kind of allowed to do that as a columnist or an opinion giver. That's not a violation of journalistic ethics by any means. The other thing that people would point to is like, well, Don Lemon knew that ahead of time that they were going to do this protest. Look, any journalist worth their salt who is well connected and has sources is going to be tipped off to events before they happen. I've been in this for almost 30 years, and I can't tell you the number of times that people have called me on background off the record. Hey, Kev, we're going to be here. We're about to do this. We're going to do that. You might want to be here around this time. That is how you think. What do you think? News reporters are like the Flash, and they just suddenly happen to be able to show up right when stuff is happening. No, people tip reporters off all the time. So that's why I kind of chuckle when people who want to challenge me sometimes want to tell me how to do my job in journalism, and I know that they don't know, the ethics or the rules or whatever. It's like, stay in your lane. If you want to ask questions, cool, we'll answer the questions. That's why Jack is here. That's why I'm here. 25 years of experience, but don't venture to tell people who live this every day like what journalism is and what it should look like. You're entitled to your opinion for sure, but this is a complex thing that, which is why I think Trump and those guys, when JD Vance is talking about they have 100% rock solid case, I guess that's why they had to shop around for about 4 or 5 different judges and grand juries before they could get these charges on Don Lemon.
Right. I agree with what everyone is saying. And even going back to some of the points that Jack laid out with the FACE Act, those individuals, when they went in and they joined the service. They didn't come in like January 6ers and forced their way in and broke in doors or anything. They came in and they listened to part of the service. And then at some part of the service, became the disruption because the pastor of that church is an ICE agent or a federal agent. It's just like kind of the hypocrisy that, this is supposed to be a Christian church of love and, you're a part of a institution that is doing some of the most inhumane things to people right now. Like, you're kind of talking out of both ends. Like, do you really believe in your faith or not? And so that was the challenge of the protest. Should they've been able to do it in a church? I go back to our long history. Protests can happen anywhere. You just have to be willing to suffer the consequences. It's called good trouble. Rosa Parks didn't give up her seat on the bus. That was a form of protest. Those African American college students who sat at the Woolworth lunch counter was in protest in a private cafe, but that was to stop segregation, and the purpose was to stop segregation, but at the same time they understood that there were going to be consequences to it. So a lot of activists know that you're trying to raise awareness, you're not trying to do any harm or anything. Most of these type of incidents get thrown out, trespassing or whatever. It's been many situations. I know, as a civil rights activist, being a part of a civil rights organization, I've been in many protests, and I've been everywhere and in places or whatever, and really crossing the line. But it's just to bring awareness. And so it is our First Amendment right to protest, but you know, there is a fine line. And if you're willing to cross it, what I'm saying, you have to be willing to suffer the consequences for it. But when it comes to Don Lemon, like Minnie said, he was doing his actions as part of the press. There is no way or fashion that this should have even became an indictment and him actually spending any time detained or in jail or whatnot. But again, this is the retribution president. This is the president that, is abusing his power and weaponizing his government to do these things. And so really he's already won, because he know this case isn't going anywhere. But it was mainly to have this man detained, embarrassed for a day, just as he felt like he was embarrassed when he got indicted for many things. All of this is just payback. And so, not to say it's right or wrong, but that's just how little the leadership that we have right now, thinks of people, and he's willing to use his own government to enact it. And again, like we were saying earlier, hate is real, and when it reaches, the position of authority, the abuse can be insufferable for people, on the other end of it. And so, I don't have anything against good trouble and people and enacting their First Amendment rights and protests, and even going a little bit beyond to really get the message out there. Because sometimes if it's just a regular schmegular protest, there's no visuals, and sometimes people have to see a person getting beat down. Sometimes people have to see. That's what our history in the civil rights movement shown. Like, you have to reach the heartstrings, you have to pull people in and make them understand. And a lot of people, and especially in this society where everyone is in their own in their own silos, they're not really getting the information. Nobody's really watching the news. They certainly not reading the newspapers and whatnot. They're getting all their information on social media, and sometimes it's just images and visuals that make a difference and get people tuned in to what's going on, and wanted to learn more about the current affairs. And so that's my take on it.
It's interesting. I saw Don Lemon interviewed by Jimmy Kimmel the other night, and he said he reached out and volunteered to turn himself in. And I think he said he got no response to that. And then, the night, I think he was covering the Grammys, the red carpet at the Grammys, like 6 agents showed up at his hotel to jostle him around and arrest him. It's just, it's just petty. I mean, among everything else, it's just incredibly petty.
Well, not just petty, but I mean, as a taxpayer, it seems like an incredible waste of tax dollars.
Yeah.
Like, I want my tax dollars to be used for agents to go after the real criminals, the kingpins, the people that are putting fentanyl, drugs, traffickers, fraudsters. That's how I want you to use my federal tax dollars, not scoring some petty, cheap, silly political points against a YouTuber, not in any way to diminish Don Lemon, because he's at the top of the charts in terms of what he does, but it just seems like a waste of tax dollars in time. Like while they're doing that, somebody out here is doing something very nefarious and dangerous. And I want the agents to be spending their time on that, not trying to get Don Lemon. And you're right, Jack, I saw that too. Don Lemon, he had just got home from the Grammys at like 12:30. And I'm like, that's a waste of our money.
Yep. And the Nathan, I always talk about the hypocrisy on this program, right? The same people who would complain, who are always talking about fiscal conservancy and wasting taxpayers' dollars, have no problem with what you just outlined. Why? Because they don't like Don Lemon. If I don't like Don Lemon, then what you just said, oh, that's just an aside to getting him arrested. Who cares if it's petty? Who cares if it's a waste of taxpayer dollars? Who cares if he offered to turn himself in? They'll overlook all of those things as if they don't matter when they do. But they'll overlook it because they don't like Don Lemon or they don't like how he reports. And this is what I always advocate for on this show, is something is right or it's not right. And it shouldn't matter whether I like you or whether I don't like you. So if I'm going to stand on the principle of wise use and fiscal use of taxpayers' dollars, then I should at least have something to say. Saying that, yeah, that was a little bit much. That was a waste of dollars. Man, Trump should have let him they should have let him turn himself in. But I still agree with getting him. You can say that, but people won't do that. They'll just completely blow past these different violations, wastes of things that Trump is doing, because as long as he's doing what they want him to do, the rest of it is just collateral damage, and we just don't give a hoot. And that's the problem that we have in this country right now. As long as you get who I want you to get, how you do it, and whether it's legal or a waste of taxpayer dollars, that's in the rearview mirror right now. I'm just glad you got it. And we've got to get past that.
But you know what a lot of Trump supporters will point to? They'll point to the lawsuits that Trump had to deal with, and they'll say that was a waste of taxpayer dollars, right? Like his fraud conviction and some of the other stuff.
But as I recall, didn't they perp walk Donald Trump, right? Didn't Donald Trump get an opportunity to turn himself in?
Yeah, but Donald Trump's a former president. But Donald Trump's the former president.
I don't recall hearing federal agents or even police officers being sent to apprehend Donald Trump when he was charged.
Well,
I'm pretty sure he got turned himself in.
No, I'm agreeing with you, but they'll say, well, they sent federal agents to his house to get those documents from Mar-a-Lago, right?
Because he was accused of a crime. I'm not saying that you should forego. First of all, I don't think Don Lemon committed a crime, but let's just say he's been indicted. So I'm not going to argue about the fact that if he failed to turn himself in, that you don't send somebody after him. This is not about whether the legalities or the pursuit is a waste of time or taxpayers' dollars. We're talking about a clear instance right here where you are using resources, time, and money that you didn't have to. Donald Trump was charged. He was accused. He was charged. So you can say you did that.
Well, he was asked to return the document.
Yeah, he did.
There were multiple
requests. I'm agreeing with you. I'm just saying that the other side, like the people that are pro
documents. So I agree
with you, Jack. That's a bad faith.
They're going to say,
that's right.
That's all like the Don Lemon.
I'm not saying that it is.
I mean,
I'm just saying
if they called
they're going to say the exact same thing in reverse.
Said no.
You did it to Trump.
That's not what happened. I mean, that's apples and oranges between those two.
Kind of breaking up, Jack. But I'm not saying I disagree with you at all. I understand the point you're making 100%. Let's move on.
And it's not the same. It's not the same. That's the other problem that people on that side want to make. Look, I think Jack went over to you what the FACE Act and the law actually says.
Right.
Now, I have been clear that I think the protesters are in much murkier waters than Don Lemon is. Because when you look at what the statute says and what you have to be doing, like, I doubt very seriously, Nathan, if you showed up at a church on Sunday and you stood up in the middle of the service like dude did in Congress and pointed at the pastor and said, "You're a liar," right? you're not going to get brought up on federal charges. Now, surely that disrupted the service. They probably going to escort you out and ask you to leave, but nobody from Pam Bondi's not going to show up. Nobody from the DOJ is going to show up and charge you federally.
Well, it
now, if you
depends.
stand up with a gun and point it at the pastor and threaten him, and then you hold people in the congregation hostage from leaving, now you probably are going to be.
It depends, though, Kevin, because it depends on context. Like if you did what you just said, and the pastor is also like a high-ranking member of ICE, and that individual has a history of criticizing Donald Trump or the administration, you might get charged by the Department of Justice.
But it would be bad charges, because if you look at, you got, again, and listen to what Jack said, he laid out what the criteria are to be charged with that. And so if I don't meet those charges, if I don't meet that criteria, that's an overcharge.
Again, I don't disagree with you. All I'm saying is, and I'm agreeing with you when I say this, is that Trump supporters are going to say the same thing about the document case. I've heard them say it. He was overcharged. They didn't have to do the way they do what they did. All they had to do was work with him, even though I know the history.
They tried to. They said, "Hey, dog, give me the documents back." Hey, man, I'm giving you a deadline. I've asked you 2 or 3 times, give them back. Trump is like, "No, I'm gonna keep these joints right next to the toilet so I can keep reading them while I'm handling my business."
You are correct to my knowledge. I'm just saying I can hear what the other side is going to say. But one last comment, one last question before we roll out of here, and this is about high school sports. I didn't know this, but Ohio is among more than 40 states that currently allow high school athletes to strike NIL deals. NIL, that's name, image, and likeness deals. As a high school student, that means you can make some money if you're making a name of yourself and you're playing high school sports. Well, now there's a new bill sponsored by Adam Byrd, who's a Republican from New Richmond, and Mike Odioso, who is a Republican from Green Township, House Bill 661. They say basically it would stop all of that. They're saying that, you know, it's bad for high school sports to allow high school athletes to have NIL deals. And so I want to get your thoughts about that. Do you agree or disagree with that? And is banning NIL about protecting minors or preserving these myths about amateurism? What do you think?
What are the myths about amateurism at the high school level?
Probably the same myths on the college level. That
College level, even though I don't agree with it, I can see, okay, under the table stuff. But what are you saying is going on at the high school level that violates amateurism?
Again, probably the same things they say about the myths about amateurism.
But we knew that. Is there evidence of high schoolers being paid hundreds of thousands of dollars under the table, or are you just kind of suspecting? I mean, is that actually happening?
Yeah, but that's not the myth, though. Part of the myth is, and I've heard you say this and other people say this, that like if you pay college athletes, much like I believe some people are saying that if you pay high school athletes, that somehow they're not amateurs anymore.
They're not. That's the definition of amateurs. You're not paid.
It messes up the spirit of the game. It changes the game.
I think it does.
Yeah. So I just answered your question. That's what the myth is.
But it's already happened, unfortunately, at college level. And I love college sports, but to me, it's been just a horrible thing. I mean, look at Xavier. Everyone's Xavier. All the players are new. Every team. I think it's terrible. But at least, okay, that's done. That's already happened. But why should we let that happen at the high school level? Do you want high schools to take money that ought to go for other reasons and just pay guys to come here and play basketball or something? Is that what we want?
Well, I mean, if you got a high schooler who has a name for themselves and they're able to sell their name, their image, and their likeness, again, their name, image, and likeness to make a little bit of money. Let's say, I don't know, I'm just throwing a name out, let's say Chipotle, wants to, do a social media campaign with a high school basketball player. I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, and you shouldn't have a problem with it. Phil, we've gotten into this before where Phil has talked about it, and I understand where he's coming from a fan perspective, right? If you're a fan of sports, NIL has ruined the experience by and large for you, particularly if you're an older school type fan, because mainly there's no loyalty to programs anymore because players don't have to be.
You mean the portal? Are you
say,
mixing up the portal with NIL?
Well, it's all together. It's all together.
Yeah.
And by the way, college is no longer NIL. They just pay them now. The NIL's over.
But let's face it, we've seen college players move to schools because I think, who was it? Tennessee's quarterback, last year, Tennessee didn't want to give him what he was asking for in terms of NIL money, so he entered the transfer portal.
Just to clarify, Kevin, NIL was what they started with, but now it's pretty much, it's over. Now it's just straight money. Let's just be clear about that.
Well, it's still NIL.
Yeah.
Straight money. Yeah. Well, they can do the players can sign up for NIL with anybody. But what I'm saying is the NIL was a way to get around paying. Now they literally, these quarterbacks and these high school quarterbacks, if you like it or not, are getting millions of dollars to go play for these major schools.
Oh, God bless them for that.
Here's why I don't have a problem with it from the player's perspective, is because it seems like sports is the only thing where we say that somebody, no matter their age, can't maximize their earning potential. If I'm in 6th grade and I come up with a patent for something, it doesn't matter that I'm in 6th grade. I can still get that patent and sell it and make money for it. When you look at the Williams sisters in tennis, what were they, 14, 15 years old when they got into tennis and started making money? So the part of the reason why the NIL resistance to me doesn't work is because nowhere else in business and in the economy, except in sports, do we tell people that they can't make money off of their talent. And it's mainly because this notion of amateurism that fans of the game want to hold on to. And that's why I said you got to separate it. What is your disagreement with it about? Is it because it ruins your experience as a fan? Well, for me, that's something that college football, the NFL, and the OHSAA got to deal with. That's not a player's problem or a reason to say that anybody shouldn't be able to maximize their earning potential. Now, I do think that there are some inevitable, potentially bad things that can come from that. I mean, younger kids, you're playing on a team, one of your teammates is getting paid, you ain't getting paid. What that does to team chemistry, jealousy, and all of that, that could be a factor, but I don't know that even that is enough of a reason to deny somebody an opportunity to maximize their earning potential.
Yeah, I like what one of the people in the chat, Nat Turner, said. If high school students can star in a movie, start a business, or sell an album, and athletes can get paid also. So let's see. Don't be a hypocrite. And I mean, I agree. I tell my kids all the time, it's not a age where you can start work and become a millionaire. You can become a millionaire right now. And this seems like this opportunity is really changing people's lives. Sports change people's lives in general. Sometimes it's the difference between being out in those streets and, not being in jail or, not being 6 feet under. And then you add the element of income for many households, that are low income, poor. Like that's a deal. That's changing lives. And I'm definitely not against that. And not everybody will have the opportunity to go to NFL. There's so many talented people, so many people with so many skills. And, they may just peak in high school. They may just peak at college, but don't everybody get the opportunity to go to the major leagues and the next level. So if they can get a little bit here and there on their way to the top, why not? I don't have any issues with it.
I wanted, somebody just said in the comments something that I thought was good. And maybe instead of trying to block kids from this is to come up with ways to enhance it. So somebody talked about, maybe these kids needing financial literacy. So if I'm a lawmaker and I want to make sure this goes well, then maybe I'll make financial literacy a part of the NIL. Hey, we're going to set things up and we're going to make sure if you take this NIL, you also got to go through these financial literacy courses so that as you're getting this money, we want to make sure that, you know, you're able to manage it, make wise decisions, things of that nature. And I think that that would be good for young people in general. Like instead of figuring out ways to block kids, and I'm so glad TNT said what she said, because I was thinking that, but in making my points, I forgot about it. But there are so many kids, you know, in inner city kids and whatnot, who they worried about making it to the NFL before they can get that bag to take care of their family or improve the living situations of their parents or themselves or whoever they're taking or who's ever taking care of them. To maybe be able to do that a little bit earlier, and again, keep kids from making bad decisions out on the streets to try to make money, to eat and stay where you're at. Now I can literally use the gifts and talents that God blessed me with and make money the right way and learn how to manage it. Man, you want to talk about poverty prevention, crime prevention.
Like it.
You know, these legislators need to start looking at it like that instead of trying to hate on these young kids getting money. I'm glad TNT said
I like that.
That's right on.
I'm with you. I like that. I like the way that sounds. Financial literacy, great. But you know what? You got a right to blow your money too. You got a right to blow it. You make a small fortune.
True, but I think we also, if you're talking about an education system,
though, Kevin, you got a right to blow your money.
Do, and many still might with financial literacy. The only thing I'm saying, Nathan, is if we're talking about concerns about the education system or concerns about our kids, if that's really what you're concerned about, then trying to at least give them exposure to financial literacy. You're right. You can spend your money however you want.
You can blow it.
But I think a lot of these young guys, I was just listening to Jamarcus Russell do an interview the other day on the Pivot podcast, and he just talked about not understanding the business of the NFL and how that impacted him. And so I'm all for things that are going to educate young people, to at least give them a chance. Like, if you're going to blow your money, blow it with the knowledge of how you could have did it differently, but don't just blow it because you don't know any better. And that's all.
And here's what Phil needs to understand. Let me drag Phil back into this. Here's what you got to understand, Phil. This NIL deal is
there you go, dragging me back in. All right, go ahead.
Back in here, buddy. This is not really about money. This is really about rights. Like giving athletes the right to control their name, image, and likeness. Many of these athletes will probably not make $1 million.
Okay. Are you okay? What if they just pay the high school? Let me ask this, just to get to it. What if the high school just pays them? Are you okay with that? Pays the best players?
That's not what we're talking about, though.
Yeah, but that will lead to it, just like they did at the college. What's the difference?
But that's a whole separate conversation, at least in my head.
No, it's not.
Right? NIL is giving these athletes the right to sell their name, image, and likeness if they choose to. Many of them may not have the opportunity to, or they may not choose to. But they should at least have the right to do so.
Take a high school.
Hold on, Phil. I think they should at least have the right to do so. I think this is also about exploitation. Right? I think this would prevent the exploitation of their NIL, their name, image, and likeness by other institutions. I'll say it again. Many of these players will never be in a position, no matter how many points they score on the field or on the volleyball court or the basketball court. But if they decide to, they should have the right to do what they want to do.
Phil, let me ask you this.
Let me respond to one thing he said real quick. May I?
Okay.
Well, let's take a high school. I don't know, whatever high school you root for, kids go to, I don't care what it is.
Okay.
Just name one, all right? Any high school. And your kid's there, and maybe your kid made JV 9th grade. Now it's maybe 10th grade or 11th, and maybe he's got a chance or she's got a chance, whatever, make the varsity, this and that. And there's a couple of real hotshot players that don't go to school there. Well, you know what's going to happen? Some school booster, okay, owns a tire dealer or car dealer or something. You know what he's going to do? The kid isn't going to go out on his own. This guy is going to say to this guy who plays for another school, hey, you come here to wherever it is, Moeller, whatever school, and guess what? You're going to endorse my tires. You're going to make $100,000. And then it becomes, just a second, it becomes it isn't just the kids on their own. It becomes a competition where, in effect, they're paying players. Forget this.
But you're Republican, though.
Hey, Phil, let me ask you this. Phil, can I get in on this?
Phil is a Republican. you're pro competition, right? You said competition is good for most things. That sounds like competition. If I was in a situation like that and my child is not like the big time star, I don't care.
He may be a big time star, but there'll be other guys that are going to pay
That's
to
our
come
business,
in.
though. But
Let me ask you this, Phil.
I'm not pocket watching somebody else's child. If somebody else's child got it like that and a booster gives them a sweet deal to go to another team, great. So be it. That's your business. It has nothing to do with me. My son or daughter is still going to go out there and do whatever they do. Why do I care about that? I don't.
Because Phil's going to say fairness.
Great for you.
Phil's going to say fairness, but here's what Phil won't admit and what other people won't admit. It was going to get to the crux of my question. Do you think Moeller and St. X recruit players already?
Yeah,
Phil?
they do.
Do you think they do?
Yeah.
Okay, so they recruit players, and how do they get? Aren't those tuition schools?
Yeah.
Do you have to pay a tuition to go?
Schools, yeah.
Okay, so when they recruit these students who they bring in there, do you think those kids' parents pay that tuition, or who pays that tuition for the students?
Again, my sense is that whether they're athletes or not, I think those schools go out of their way, as far as I know, to make sure no kid doesn't attend because of money, whether athletes or not.
So, in other words, their tuition gets paid. That was a roundabout way for you saying that the school makes sure that their tuition the school makes sure that their parents can afford for them to go there. So in other words, they pay their tuition.
Whether
this
they're
is the dishonesty. Okay, well, we're talking about athletes. We're talking about the athletes that they recruit from other areas who are good. They're not recruiting the 12th or 13th guy to come and sit on their bench and pay his tuition. They get top guys to come to those schools.
Let me give you a specific example.
And if their families can't afford, wait, Phil, let me finish my point. Then I'm gonna let you have it. I'm gonna let you have it, but I'm gonna give you plenty of rope to hang yourself with. So they bring these kids in, and if their parents can't afford the tuition, they make sure it gets paid. So you're okay with that, but you don't like the idea of essentially doing. What's the difference between paying their tuition to go to the school so they can pay, and some guy who wants to give a kid $10,000 or whatever it is to represent his tires to go to that school and play? It's still buying players. You're just paying. It's just a difference between tuition or actually putting the money in the kid's pocket. This is the dishonesty, and I think what Nathan says, the myth of amateurism that people like to convey. But the reality is that these schools and these coaches, whether it's high school or college or whatever, they play a game that is all about money. And it's money for them, and it's money for their programs, and it's money for everybody except the player. And that is the dishonesty of those who want to maintain this myth of amateurism. Go ahead, Phil. The floor is yours.
There's a kid, you'll think of his name. He was quarterback at Penn State. I don't know if he's playing pro or not. He came from St. X. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Drew Allard?
Huh?
Drew Allard?
No, somebody else. I know his name.
Okay.
But actually, that kid originally started at Cincinnati Hills Christian Academy, where my kids went, okay? Which is a tuition school, okay? He left. Now, there's a couple other kids I can name that I know that did this. They left CHCA because it just isn't that powerful a sports school and went to St. X, okay? As far as I know, St. X didn't give them anything. They still had to pay tuition. So it isn't like they were being paid to go there. They just went there because it was a higher level competition. Now, under the world that you guys want, you're talking about basically, whoever it is, whether it's Moeller, St. X, or Walnut Hills, okay? They're going to be it's all money, and basically they're going to just all compete. It's all money thing, okay? Whichever school has the most money, okay, it's going to have the best teams.
It won't be all money. I mean, I think if you're in
that
position.
Oh, really? What else would it be?
I think money will be a huge factor, but it won't be all money. Like if you've got somebody trying to go pro.
Yeah, some kids offered $100,000 to go to Walnut Hills or by some booster. You're saying, he may not want to go there. He wants to go to another school that has a better geography department. Yeah.
Well, sure. Let me ask you the question for you, man. I think that if you're a student athlete and you are top tier, right? you're trying to get to that next level, you got to weigh all that stuff. So yeah, if somebody's throwing a big bag of cash at you, that's going to open your eyes. But you're also looking at the level of competition because you're looking at the long game. And the long
guess
game
what?
is
Whoever
trying
has
to
the
get
most money is going to have the highest level of competition.
Excuse me, let me finish. The long game is you want to get to a D1 school and you're trying to get to the pros. So yeah, if somebody's throwing you a big bag, yeah, it's just like adults. You know, if somebody has a business proposition with you, you're going to entertain it. You're going to sit down and mull it over. It doesn't mean you're necessarily going to do it because you're thinking about the long game.
Yeah,
for
you're
sure.
going to do it.
But some kids will probably do it.
Let me tell you something
Some
why I
kids
like
may
high
not
school
do it
basketball
because
and I used to
some
like
kids
college.
may not. Some student athletes may not do it because they're looking at the long game. They might want to play a division,
the long game,
a certain
they're
division
turn
with
down money.
a certain amount of competition because they think that might put them in a position to get to the pros. I mean, the pros is going, listen, if I'm on my way to the pros, $100,000 is nothing. If I know I'm going to the pros.
If you're on your way, if you hope to be in the pros, come on.
Nathan, well, we're talking about the top.
Walnut Hills offers somebody $100,000 and they don't have that good a sport at the time, a good a team. You're saying, oh, I'm going to stay wherever I am. I'm saying that
if I know, if I'm a blue chip prospect, and everyone is telling me that if I stay on this trajectory, that I got a good shot at going to the pros, I'm not going to blow that $400,000. I'm going to entertain it. I'm going to see how I can get it. But I'm looking at the long money. And I think most parents.
Well, I'll tell you something. You know, here's what high school and college sports used to be about. Okay. It used to be, at least high school, I think to some extent, it used to be that you had students who went to a school for whatever reason. Okay. And those students at the school tried out for the football team. Okay. It's not that way anymore. At least it's not that way at the college level anymore. It's basically, hey, whoever has the most money gets the best players. That's it.
It's not just the most money, it's also the opportunity. If that's what you
want for high school, then have more power to you. I don't want that.
It's not just, if the money is a factor, but I don't think it's just the money. It's also the opportunity. It depends on the position. It depends on what the overall goal is.
Your kid's offering $100,000 and says, oh no, they don't have a good geography program. I'm going to stay here and make
nothing. You talk about geography program, but it's much deeper than that. But I understand your point, though. Your point is well taken. If I'm someone if I'm like D2 level, D3 level, and the pros are not really a realistic goal for me, but yet somebody wants to give me a big bag of money to sell their tires, I'm going to take it. Because I ain't going to the pros anyway. So I'm trying to make as much money now while I'm in high school and college, because I don't think pros is a realistic option for me.
But schools that offer that money are probably going to have the best teams. So what's your point?
Hey, well, it's called, hey, welcome to capitalism. You love capitalism? You anti-capitalist?
But it's not. I don't think it's going to be as cutthroat as Phil is trying to say. I think for a lot of different reasons. One, you're not going to have as many athletes at the high school level. Number one, quite frankly, who are going to be NIL money eligible, right? And then secondly, you're talking about, okay, let's just say I live north of Cleveland and some school here in Cincinnati wants to offer me $100,000 to come down here and play. Do you really think $100,000 is enough money to uproot your family and move them from north of Cleveland to Cincinnati to play high school basketball? No, I'm not.
I thought you said you were talking about low-income kids that are struggling to just get a meal.
But that's not a zero sum. That's not a zero sum thing. You know, $50,000 to stay at home might be worth better than uprooting my family to move 200 miles south to play high school basketball. I mean,
players are doing that though, Kevin. You got these OTE, these leagues now that are propping up down like they got in Atlanta. You got all these schools. Yeah, I mean, the kid will go. It's almost like vacation. The kid goes there for and the family stays where they're from. The kid goes there, makes a big bag of money, and still keeps their eligibility. So that does happen. But to your point, you're talking about the top 1% of players. Yeah. That's like top 0.1%. That ain't everybody.
Not necessarily. Right. Necessarily. You need 5 players on a basketball team, okay? So if they're going to pay the best guy $100,000, they'll probably throw $20,000 or $30,000 out to the others. They want to have a great team. That's the whole way it works.
Yeah, but you're talking about hundreds and thousands of basketball players. You might have 500,000, 1 million high school basketball players, and you're talking about 5. So we're talking about a very, very small percentage of athletes that are even going to be
5 per
considered for that.
team is what I mean. Each team is
Well, really, it's going
going
to be like 10 or 11 per team. But even that, when you compare that to the total number of high school basketball athletes, and you're talking about 12 or 100 or 200 in the nation, that's
what about
very,
football?
very top.
How many are on a football team? What about that? What about
even
that
in
money?
football? I mean, you might have 1 million high school football players. And so what? You get 1,000 at the very top that might get these deals? That's nothing. That's a very small percentage of them. And God bless them because they earned it. They earned it. God bless them because they were born with good genetics. They were disciplined. They worked hard and they put themselves in a position so they could go make that money. What's wrong with that, Phil? That's America. That's the American dream.
Phil is overplaying how much money these kids are actually going to get. Like Phil is talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars and all this. Look, maybe LeBron James when he was balling here in the state of Ohio and that sort of thing. But I don't think you're talking about those magnitudes of dollars that high school kids are going to be getting. And any who are in that stratosphere, I agree. It's like what Nathan, you're talking about maybe the top 4 or 5 players,
right,
you know, in the state that might command that kind of money at the high school level. I mean, you act like, and again, I don't know, somebody who's, this is just my speculation. So take it for what it's worth.
I think a good example is,
I don't think there's that much money circulating in the booster circles in high school basketball. I could be wrong. But I think it's different even than it is at the college level, and certainly that it is at the pro level. That the kind of dollars you're talking about, Phil, I just don't see that being thrown around in high school.
What happened to Chris Henry Jr.? Wasn't he like a football player at Withrow? And then I guess he transferred to Mater Dei High School. That's in California. Was that because of money or because it was a better opportunity?
No, but it was because it was a better program because they didn't offer money where he wasn't able to.
So are you more, wanting to control where the players go? Like, do they need to sign a contract so they like
I want students to play high school sports. That's what I want.
Isn't that within their right to just like go wherever they feel is
that's what the debate is about, whether it should be within their rights.
Yeah,
that's what we're talking about.
So I mean, what's the difference with him making this decision this way and then that decision being made where, is money offered? It's a better. If there's money being offered, then I'm pretty sure it's even a better program and it's more visibility for him to have a greater chance to possibly make the pros. I mean, all those things.
That's all.
Hey Phil, let me ask you this.
By the way, those who, who believe in, shall we say, more academic, whatever you want to call it, more equality between the schools or the areas that have money and the ones that don't. Well, guess what? Those private schools that may not have that good of teams now, but they have a ton of money. That's where all the good players are going to go. Wherever the money is, they'll go.
I don't think it's just money. It's also the quality education.
If that's what you want, that's what you'll get.
I don't think it's just money, Phil. I think you're misreading that. It's the money. It's also the quality of education and the quality of the pathway to the next level. It's all those things. Yeah, I mean, if I grew up in, impoverished and my kid turns into somebody in the basketball or football world, and now I got a chance to put you in a private school, and you can get a world-class education and make some money and get a chance to be seen by the next level scouts, I'm going to take it. Why wouldn't I take that? It's a win-win-win.
Hey, Phil, this is one of the old school arguments, and this is another reason why I'm even more inclined to say high school kids should be able to get a little bit of something.
Little bit, yeah.
Because the argument used to be at the college level, hey, they're getting a scholarship that pays for their education. So even though if I'm playing on Sundays or playing ball throughout the week, and I'm the primary reason this program is making millions of dollars and people are coming to this arena to see me shoot or to run the football or to throw the football or whatever, I don't deserve any of that, but I should be glad because they're giving me a free education. Well, if I'm a top player at a local high school, right?
Then turn pro.
And they
If you don't want to go to college,
and
turn
they
pro.
packing the gym out. They packing the gym out so much that now they got to move the game from my high school to Centos or Fifth Third Arena or whatever, because people is coming to see me and my team play. I can't even say that they're paying for my education, because technically my parents' tax dollars is the ones that's paying for my education and everybody else's tax dollars. So it's not like my education is free. So it's not even like I'm getting a free education in high school. So all of this money that I'm bringing to bear through my talents, I'm not seeing any of it, not even in the form of a paid for education. So at the high school level, I really ain't getting nothing. How do you explain that, Phil? You okay with that? Because I could at least gave you. I could at least say it on.
You know what's interesting about this thing about.
I could at least say on the college level, you could have. It was a bad argument, but you could have at least said, well, they're getting the equivalent, because that was always the argument. Well, they're getting hundreds of thousands of dollars in education, even though most of their main jobs. We all go to college for a career, and most of those athletes' careers goals is in sports. I'm going to this college so that I can go to the next level of the pros. That's what I'm majoring in. And we know a lot of athletes, that's what they major in, the next level, trying to get to the pros, particularly the top ones. So high school athletes should be able to get a piece.
For
all of that, bring in.
As far as the point goes that, it's not just money. They want the better education. Well, if I may say, alma mater, which is known as a fairly strong academic school, college, their football team has, and pretty much basketball, has sucked for about a long time. Okay, I don't understand why, since they are known as one of the top educational institutions of the country, why are all these other players going to Ohio State? Why aren't they going to Stanford? I mean, if that's what's important is the education.
Ohio State gonna get you in the pros. Stanford might get you in the pros. You gotta be.
But that's not that important. It's the education. Nathan said they may care about a great education. Wow, I hope that's true, because then
I said that it's all three things.
Going to start winning some games.
Yeah, I said that. Yeah, I mean, as a parent, for me, if my son or daughter, it's all three.
Harvard should have a great football team.
Well, it depends. It's probably some other factors we're not aware of. Hey, but Jackie, you mentioned something about a comment in the comment section, and then stop being selfish, Phil. Phil only cares about what you want to watch on TV. You want a freshman to come in like Rudy, and you want to root for Rudy. He becomes a sophomore.
You guys are really picking on me today. You guys are really bullying me around.
We are enjoying this.
Then Rudy becomes a junior. Now he's double digits. And then he has a breakout senior year, and you follow him for all 4 years. So you're all emotionally invested in Rudy. Man, bump all of that. Let Rudy make that money and go where Rudy and Rudy's family want him to go. Period. But Jack, back to you.
You guys are a great bunch of capitalists. I want to congratulate you. Okay,
thank you.
You guys ought to become Republicans. You really ought to.
My head is with all you guys. My heart is still sort of with Phil. I think we're just old guys.
Oh, thank you.
Oh my God.
We remember the good old days, but my
heart always wins.
My head is with you. There is a certain nostalgia, and you just, one of the things that you kind of hate to see, again, speaking as an old man, is just sort of guys that were on your team, Barry Larkin being on the Reds his whole career, bench, et cetera. And you hate to kind of see high school kids popping around. But look, it's been going on since Jerry Faust was coaching at Moeller. He was bringing kids in. The Franciscos came in from out of state and, found lodging and that sort of thing. So this is not new. Even at the high school level. I just real quick,
Jack, for a while I thought that you were going to kind of hang
how the chat thing works. Iris Raleigh, I'm sorry I haven't been able to figure it out. I'd love to talk to you. Go to Faruqi.com or FaruqiLLP.com and send me an email, and I'd love to set up a time to talk to you. I'm sorry I have not been able to master the chat function. I apologize.
Well, guys, that's all I got. It's a beautiful
That's
Friday.
all I got. I'm exhausted. I'm
Mission
worn out from
accomplished.
this.
We wore it
I need the
down.
weekend to kind of just recover. Okay, from this.
Recover.
Okay.
Hey, you know what, Phil? I wanted to ask you, man.
From you capitalists beating on me, I need the weekend. I need to recover.
Hey, Phil, real quick. I know you interviewed Amy Acton and her VP. What was that like? What do you think about them? John Pepper is her running mate. What do you think about that?
David Pepper.
I'm sorry, David Pepper. You're right.
Well, by the way, I've tried to get Ramaswamy, but I find that the pro-Trump people are not so interested in being interviewed. And I've also tried to get Rick Jones, by the way, the big anti-immigrant sheriff. He's not willing to do it. But I thought Amy Acton was very polished. Okay, she was well and pretty impressive person, I would say overall. She had been well. I don't mean this badly. Well taught about how to handle difficult questions and how to present oneself. So I would say in that sense, I was pretty impressed.
And you got her in home. You do your podcast from your home, so you was face to face.
Well, I do them both, but some people prefer to do it in person. So that's why she preferred. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Upcoming, I've got the guy running against Greg Landsman. His name is Eric Conroy, and he wants to do it in person. So that's coming up in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
I think it's somebody else running.
All right.
Well, can I put out a string?
However, but my two most distinguished guests are part of this group right here. I won't name any names, but I'll just leave it at that.
All right. You said you want to do a plug, TNT. What's going on?
Shameless plug. Laugh Light Entertainments is doing their 6th annual Mardi Gras Laugh-abration. This is my good friend Ebonique. She is a comedian, and she has DJ Dimples also performing his comedy show. Tailor Made Catering will be catering the food, which is me. And so I invite everybody on the crew, everybody in the chat. It's going to be March the 7th. I put a little link in the chat. If you're interested, tickets are on sale now, but come and join us and have a real good time, Fat Tuesday style.
I want to throw one plug here, one idea. Those of us on Hot Mic, the crew, we've never had a field trip. Have you thought about that? What about if we all go to that new movie? What's it called? Malone. What's the name of that movie? Maloney. So whatever it is. I hear it's just.
Is that even? I think that's already on streaming. I think that's already streaming now.
You do not disparage the first lady. We would not have that. What did you say? Malarkey?
Seriously. I know that wasn't on the topic, but who seriously thought that was going to be a banger? I mean, for real, where was the bribe? Where was the body? Where was the data that said that America was just clamoring to see a movie about Melania Trump? I heard there's some risque photos out there that probably might have got a little bit more viewership than the movie, but I'm just saying, who thought that spending $75 million or whatever it was? I mean, we know that was basically a campaign donation.
Oh, it wasn't a campaign. It was a personal bribe. It was a bribe.
Yeah, but I mean, seriously, who thought that was a good idea? I mean, Donald Trump probably didn't even really want to sit through that thing. He probably fell asleep.
What did she say? Here we go again. Here we go again. So, yeah.
With that, thank you so much for your time. I think it's still snowing outside, so you guys get a chance to get out there and play in the snow today. Snowballs, snow angels, Iceman, the whole 9 yards. Have fun. We'll be back with you next week on Tuesday and Friday. Have a great weekend. Until next time, take care of yourself.
Thanks, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jack. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, TNT. Thank you, Kevin. Take it easy. And the audience, thank you so much.